Hello everyone, and welcome back to my channel. It is Megan, and today we are going to be talking about all the books that I read. These are my last 5 library books, and it's been shorter than 3 weeks, definitely. I definitely blew through these. These were all but they were all very short. Like, if you can see, they weren't super long, so I totally breezed through them. So today we are going to be talking about them, giving you all my thoughts. So let's get started. The first book that I read was Hunger by Roxane Gay. And if you remember from my last video, then you'll know that I was pretty much finished this book by the time I recorded my predictions. So I barely said anything about it because I was already pretty much done. So now, here we are. I'm going to talk about my thoughts. So, I ended up rating this 4.5 stars. It wasn't a full 5-star read for me, just because I don't see myself ever rereading this book again. But it was still really good. It was a really well told story. It's non-fiction, and it's about Roxane Gay's life, and how she's had to deal with her body and being fat, and just like everything that goes into it, like just mentally, physically, everything. I didn't expect it to get as deep as it did. It was tough to read, but a definitely very important read, and definitely there were definitely lessons to be learned in this book, so I highly recommend it. So that's the first book that I read. The second book that I read was for the Canada Reads list, and this is Satellite Love. Satellite Love? Can you see it? It's not really focusing very well, but that's it here, by Genki Ferguson, or Genki Ferguson. I'm not 100% sure. But this one had to do with striving for love and connection. The main character, Anna, feels so isolated. She's 16 and just feels super isolated. Like, her mom is never around, her grandfather is dealing with some form of dementia, and all she wants is connection. And so what she does is she imagines this, it's not even a UFO, what'd she call him? An LEO, which is short for Low Earth Orbit Satellite. And she basically uses her imagination to bring this thing down to her, and she basically creates this person in her mind, and just so that she can connect with someone. And I didn't expect the ending to go where it did. That took a turn. I mean, it was very fast paced, and then the end, I was like, what? But it was just very beautifully written too. I really liked the grandfather's points of view in this book. Like, the author didn't need to add them, but it really added something to the story. So I'm glad that was part of it. So that was that. I rated this one, I can't remember. Let me just give it a quick check. I think it was 3 stars I rated this. I opened the wrong app. Yes. Okay, so I'm back. I don't know what happened. My camera stopped recording, but all this to say, I rated this 3 stars. Moving on. Alright, next is The Untold Story by Genevieve Cogman. This one is the 8th and last book in the Invisible Library series, and I love this series. There's just so many elements to it. There are just so many different things. Like, there are vampires, fairies, and she's a librarian, and librarians have superpowers. Like, they can use their words to communicate with things, to make them do things. It's actually really cool. It's a really cool world, and I love the world building in this. It is so good. So the fact that this the last one is sad, but it was still really good, because I like that the characters got a happy ending. I mean, they got an ending that they didn't a lot of shit had to happen, but in the end they got an ending that wasn't sad, basically. And I enjoyed it. I felt like the characters deserved that they got this happy ending, because not always do I feel like characters need to have a happy ending. But after everything that these characters have been through, I'm like, they deserve a happy ending. So, that was this one. I ended up rating it 4 stars. It was fast paced. Sometimes it was a bit slow, and sometimes I'm like, okay, can we carry on? What is going on? Blah, 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 blah. But it was still super, super good, and I really, really loved it. So that's this. I'm like talking really fast now because I'm afraid that this is going to stop recording. Alright, the next book that I read was All the Quiet Places by Brian Thomas Isaac. This was also for a Canada Reads nominated book that I read. I rated this one 3.5 because it was just very slow paced, but it was also like a really, really good and like important read. It was basically about the main character, Eddie. He's grown up as a native Indian in Western Canada on a reserve, and it just basically talked about his life growing up as a native Indian and how they were treated basically in Canada. So it was just a really, really like eye-opening, and just like it's a read that if you don't read these stories, you just don't know that they happened. And it touched upon a lot of really interesting topics. So I highly recommend this one if you're looking to read more Indigenous stories and to learn more about them. So this is this one. Alright, last book! Alright, this one is Goodbye Days by Jeff Zentner. So, there we go. The cover makes sense now. So basically this is about a kid, Carver, who sends a text message to his friends. His one friend is driving and answers, and sadly they get into a car crash and all 3 of his best friends die. That is the premise of the story. That is not a spoiler. And basically the story is Carver dealing with the death of his 3 friends and having to deal with the guilt that he feels, the grief that he feels, and the grief that everybody else feels. So I rated this one 4 stars. I didn't agree with a lot of what Carver did and said because I was like, oh, what the heck? But at the same time, he's a teenager and he's going through all of this grieving. So I understand like where his mind is, but I was just like, to read it as a third party, you're like, I don't agree with this. This isn't like that. I'm like, no. But it was still very accurate. It was still very like it felt very raw and real. So I enjoyed it. I like that he had goodbye days. Goodbye days is what they called it in the story, with each of the families, so that like he could relieve his guilt just a little bit, because it wasn't, to me, I don't believe it was his fault. I mean, sure, you can send a text to someone who's driving, but it's ultimately the person who's driving who's answering the text. That person didn't have to answer the text, so I'm just saying. But yeah, no, I enjoyed this. It was so fast-paced, too. You just breezed through it. So, this was that. So, these were the last 5 books that I read from the library. I can't believe I'm going to the library again already. Like, whoa, this year is just flying by. So, these are the last 5 library books I read. And, I mean, they were pretty good. I really hope you don't hear the music that my brother is playing right now, but these were really good. I enjoyed these ones, so I'm happy. We finally are getting to some higher rating books, because the last few I had very little 4-star reads. This one there's 2, and no, 3. I lied. There's 3. So we're getting to better days. So until next time. Like, subscribe, comment, do your thing, and I will be here again in just a short while to talk about my predictions for the next 5 books. So, till then, bye guys!